Today we are looking at unit number 3, and unit number 3 covers the choice of textiles for clothing and soft finishing. Okay, because textile we also use them for clothing and finishing. Okay, so we are going to start with section 3.1 on page 158 of your textbook. They say here, and let me just take it up a little bit. Yes. For many years, most of our choices of textile products were inspired by fashion industry that encouraged constant change. Fashion dictated colors, designs, textures, and types of fabrics for clothing and interior fabrics. Consumers conformed to every fashion trend as it came along because it was the expected thing to do. And then we come across this, the first term here, which is eco-fashions. They say eco-fashions have changed this a great deal. Fashion is less prescriptive now than for previous generation, and the consumer has more freedom to make independent choices. Okay, we're going to get the definition for eco-fashion at the bottom here. They say eco-fashion, it's clothing production that is mindful of its environment and social effects. That is the first term that we came across. So you need to know the definition of eco-fashion. It's clothing production that is mindful of its environmental and social effects. Okay, and we go back to our paragraph there, and I will just repeat this paragraph, then we can continue. Eco-fashions have changed this a great deal, okay, because this is production mindful of environment and social effects. Fashion is less prescriptive now than for previous generations, and the consumer has more freedom to make independent choices. Okay, so it's up to you, what fashion do you choose? Section 3.2. When you choose a textile, you need to consider what you want and what you expect the item to do. You don't just choose. You need to have expectations. Number one, what you want and what you expect the item to do. Clarify your needs before deciding on the most desirable properties of the fabric by asking yourself these questions. What is the need? Okay. Who will be using it? How will it be used? And when will it be used? And for how long should it last? These are the most important questions that you need to ask yourself when considering or when choosing a textile. For example, suppose you need a new windbreaker that you will wear often. Okay, you expect it to keep looking good, to be durable, okay, which means it must last for long, durable. It must be comfortable and easy to care for. These are the expectations, these expectations are the criteria that you will use to select a suitable windbreaker. When assessing an item, you will look at more than one aspect. For appearance, you look at style, color, and texture. For durability, you look at fiber content to see if it will be strong and abrasion resistant. For comfort, you test the fabric elasticity and decide on its absorbency and warmth or coolness. For appearance, you look for appearance retention, you look for durability properties. For care, you check the care label and also look for special care instruction, such as dry clean only. You see, so when assessing the item, you will look at so many aspects as they have listed them here. All right, because you want a textile that is suitable for a particular purpose. Therefore, you must have a criteria. Okay, right. So let's look at fiber properties. What are the desirable properties for textiles? these are the properties that we're looking for in fibers. We're looking for strength, we're looking for abrasion resistance, we're looking for resilience, we're looking for drapability, we're looking for resistance to heat. Now let's go through each property one at a time. Okay, strength. Fabrics should be strong so that they do not tear easy during use or care. Abrasion resistance. Fabrics should not develop worn areas and should not peel quickly. And then resilience determines how wrinkle resistant a fabric will be and how well it will retain its loft. And drapability, some fabrics are stiff and heavy, others fall in soft folds. Okay. And the resistance to heat, not all fibers are equally resistant to the temperatures to which they are subjected when they are washed. Most synthetic fibers, and let's go to the next page, which is page 59, and wool need a cool to lukewarm temperatures. Cotton and linen can be washed and ironed at high temperatures. We still have other properties. Let me just take them up a bit. So we have absorbency, we have color fastness, we have comfort, and we have resistance to staining and soiling. So let's look at the last four. Absorbency and wickeability. That's another definition we have. What does wickeability mean? It's the ability of fibers to let moisture quickly pass through a fabric without being absorbed into a fiber. Let's read it again. The ability of fiber to let moisture quickly pass through a fabric without being absorbed into a fiber. Now they say another property for fibers, it's absorbency and wickeability. They go together. Absorbency is the ability of a fiber. We've already gone through this in our first unit. Absorbency is the ability of a fiber to take up water, and wickeability is the ability of fibers to let moisture quickly pass through the fabric without being absorbed into the fiber. These are desirable properties for most products. Another property is color fastness. This is the ability of the fabric to maintain its original color. Okay, for example, not to fade or change color with use. And then comfort is one of the properties as well. This is determined by fabric's permeability, the way it feels against the skin, its ability to stretch with the movement of the wearer, which is the person that is wearing it, and its thermal and electrical properties. The more often a garment is worn, the more important comfort will be. So if you may wear it a lot, it must be comfortable. The last property is resistance to staining and soiling. This depends on the properties of fiber, but the yarn and the construction of the fabric also play a role. So these are the properties for fibers. It's how many of them? We have 4 in this page and we have 5 on the first page. So you need to know all of them and be able to discuss them. Okay. And now we're looking at the price. Price is what you pay to acquire, use, and maintain a textile product. Purchase price will be influenced by current fashion, lifestyle, available budget, and access to various retail shops. Cost to use and maintain the item depends on how much it will cost to care for this product during its lifetime. The cost should be reasonable given given the product's inherent properties. The purchase price and the cost of maintenance is relative to the expected use and lifespan of the item. For example, an expensive item that will be used for many times will eventually be cheaper than a lower price item that will only be used few times. Let's read this again. The purchase price and cost of maintenance is relative to the expected use and lifespan of the item. For example, an expensive item that will be used many times will eventually be cheaper. Will be cheaper than a lower price item that will only be used few times. Okay. Now let's look at the environmental concern as we are choosing the textile for certain purpose. Okay, remember eco-friendly. We have mentioned that eco-friendly has got to do with environmental effects and social effects. Okay, so now we're looking at environmental concerns. Environmental concerns involve ways in which production, use, care, and disposal of textile fibers and products affects the environment. The production of textile uses an enormous amount of chemicals. The production of textile uses an enormous amount of chemical. So the textile industry is considered the most polluted sector of all other industries. The biggest problem is the amount of textile that has to be produced to provide for the demands made by the fashion industry. When making choices, responsible consumers should be on the lookout for eco-friendly practices. Remember, we have talked about eco. Let me go back to that term in page 1, eco-fashion. Okay, and now they're talking about eco-friendly. So when they talk about eco, you think about the environment. Okay. So they say when making choices, responsible consumers, which is us, should be on the lookout for eco-friendly practices. Here are some examples of eco-friendly practices. The manufacturing process of a rayon is environmentally unfriendly, so it's not eco-friendly. So an entirely new process has been developed. As you saw in Unit 1, regenerated bamboo and lyocell fibers are produced in a closed-loop system in which most chemicals and water are recycled through the system. So regenerated bamboo and lyocell fibers are at least eco-friendly choices of material or textiles. Now we come across another term, which is the organic fibers. They say organic fibers are fibers that are cultivated without chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Okay. Organic fibers reduce the amount of fertilizers and pesticides that are used to produce textiles. In some countries, cotton is cultivated in brown to reddish brown colors, which eliminates the use of dyes and dyeing. All chemicals are closely monitored so that less polluting types are used and they are recycled whenever possible. Dyes and pigments have evolved. For example, sulfur dyes eliminates where are we? Sulfur dyes eliminate sulfide waste products. Direct dyes use salt. Pigment inks are water-based instead of solvent-based, and more natural dyes from trees and plants are used. So you can even choose the eco-friendly dyes. Textile waste fiber is sold for secondary processing. So the waste that comes from textile fiber industry is still sold for another processing process. It is used for manufacturing of mops. You see, mops are the waste from textile industries. For manufacturing of mops, clothes like your dishwashers and the stuff, wadding for furniture, floor mats, and shoulder pads. For example, Okay, before we go to the example of textile waste fiber, let's read this. It looks interesting. We use large quantities of water, energy, and detergents to clean and dry our clothes. It has been suggested that this is the most polluting stage of textile life cycle. So washing and the water that we use and pollute is the most polluting stage of textile. Okay, so let's look at the example of the waste fiber that is used. Okay, and we'll pass this note and we'll go where we want to go. Oh no, what example are they giving us? But they already gave us the example in that section. Oh, they say textile waste fiber is sold for secondary processing. It is used for manufacturing mops, cloths, whiting for furniture, floor mats, and shoulder pads, for example. So they gave us the example where textile waste fiber is being sold or used for secondary processing. We have the examples. And this brings us to the end of unit number 3. Okay, this brings us to the end of unit number 3, and it brings us to the end of the textile a chapter. Now you have the summary. Please go and read this summary. It's on page 161. You go through the entire summary on page 161. Okay, and not forgetting to rate everything for practice for the test and exams. Okay.